25 seconds to showtime. And we are live.
Hey,
Hey,
kids, how are you? I'm going to turn off my audio output from in Discord so I stop hearing you. Something is automatically turning my volume up, and I don't know what's doing it. So that's not good. I've been pushing it down to 3. Right now it's gone back up to 4, but if I don't watch it, it's up to like 8.
Wow.
So who's doing that?
Yeah, I can see it go up.
Yep, it just went up again. I'll leave it at 4 for a minute and see if it goes up to 5. I had to start loop back automatically. See if it's doing anything on purpose. Monitors, no. I mean, there's really nothing to it. Yep, it's up to 5 now. That's not good. I don't have anything running that should do that. Kevin, there, it just went back down to 4. What is causing that? Sound preference, regular. Oh, you know what? Let me check and see if sound source is doing it. I'm having more trouble with sound source than it's helping me. I'm going to quit that. All right, quitting sound source and going back down to 3. See if I can get it to stick. Okay, I'm at 3 right now, and I'm going to do a little test recording here. I will keep an eye on that dial. Let's go up here, and I'll hit trigger that. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. All right, here comes playback. Let's see if anybody can hear it. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. All right, everybody can hear that? You can hear it, Steve?
I can hear it.
Not all right, good. Hey, Ian's here. I got a new follower on Twitter, Ian. All right, Rose can hear it. All right, so they can hear it down in Australia.
Who might that be?
Am I allowed to say, Ian? All right, so good friend of the show, Ian's son is now on Twitter, and his Twitter handle is, let's see, at do not record.
That's Daniel, by the way.
Whoops, you got to spell it right. At do not record. There you go. Yeah, Daniel is on Twitter now, so I think everybody should follow him. Just have him have this crazy boost in followers. I think that'd be really fun.
All the NosillaCast castaways. I'm gonna follow him right now.
Hey, Rose, do you like my my shirt? What's it say? I can't stand up here and see what it says at the same time.
Well, it says sarcasm, primary elements of humor, and each of the letters is broken down into one of the elements in the periodic table. They're symbols.
I recognize argon.
Argon, calcium, S, California. I guess is sulfur. Oh, California, okay. And what's SM?
No, I'm sure it's calcium. What's SM?
No, there's a Californium, but it's probably not Ca.
Is there?
No, it's 20. That's got
Lanthaninoid, it says. I don't know.
Let me blow that baby up. Let's see, one more shot at that.
All right.
Yeah, look at that. I wonder why you got that shirt.
I wonder, Steve. All right, let's
not
do
that you use sarcasm in your humor.
Sarcasm would never be necessary. All right, let's do a little roll call.
If you didn't have sarcasm, what would you have? You'd have nothing left to say.
Okay, there you go. We've got Sandy and Kevin, and I think Dave Ginsburg is here, and Ian is back after being gone for a while. We might have Jedi, you never know. We got a pair of Johns, Rose, Rick, and somebody in his Titan bot. Don't know who's in his Titan bot. Who's a bot tonight?
Who came in through the NosillaCast live show page on that Discord entry?
Or possibly podfeet.com/Discord. You never know.
Oh, that too, yeah.
All right. So we should probably put an intro in here. And I'll drop that down. Let's give it -16 or so. And let's come up here and we are going to start the shoe. You got the notes, Steve?
I got the notes. I'm good.
All right. I think we are ready to start.
All right.
All right. Oh, happy anniversary, everybody.
Happy Mother's Day, Podfeet.
Oh, thank you. SMS of Miriam.
You got a couple wishes. Kevin wished you happy Mother's Day.
Oh, happy Mother's Day, Sandy. All right. Drinking water.
Samarium. Sounds like it's rare, maybe even radioactive. I don't know about samarium.
What is S?
Sulfur, I think.
It says other non-metal underneath it.
Yeah.
Sulfur.
That would be sulfur.
It's actually kind of hard to read. AR is argon.
Yep. Is Ca calcium?
Samarium. Yep, he's right.
What's the atomic number?
82? Of what?
Samarium. Yeah, it's up
62.
there. Okay. I wonder if it's radioactive.
All right. Goodbye, Steve.
Bye-bye.
I'm muting him. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, May 12th, 2019, and this is show number 731. Well, first of all, let me give a big shout out to all of the mothers out there. Whether you bore your own child, adopted, or acted as a mom to someone who needed you, I want to wish you all a happy Mother's Day. I'd also like to give a big cheer for the 14-year anniversary of the NosillaCast coming up tomorrow on Monday, the 13th of May. In 2005, I'm a liar.
I thought the post started with when podcasting started. Wasn't that 2004?
It was, but that's not what my notes say. In 2000, come on. Hard to cut that little bit out. All right. Wants me to save. Did Kevin do that? All right. Now let's do it. In 2005, I sat down in front of a microphone hooked up to a 15-inch PowerBook running GarageBand and made my first podcast episode of what I then called the Nosilla Podcast, or NosillaCast for short. Well, Chuck Joyner had me on Mac Voices this week for his series he calls Road to Macstock. He asked me on to explain what I'll be presenting at the show. It's very timely with the 14th anniversary because my presentation is all about how technology created a community. In other words, it's about how Steve and I became friends with you. Without the NosillaCast in our lives, those lives would be ever so much smaller. Whether you've just dropped me a note to say you like the show, or done a listener contribution, maybe sent it a dumb question, or sent me a correction where I said something dumb, or maybe you're a Patreon member, or you contribute or lurk in our Facebook or Slack communities, or if you're an all-out fan by being a weekly attendee of the live show, you have all enriched my life. If you want to hear more about it, you can check out the link in the show notes to macvoices.com. I'll be talking about that at Macstock, and I would love it if you could be there. If you haven't signed up for Macstock and you can figure out a way to get yourself to the Chicago area for the weekend of July 27th and 28th, you can get a ticket for $70 off the full price of a 2-day weekend pass if you use the coupon code PODFEET. That brings the price down to only $179 for 2 days of amazing instruction and a chance to increase your community of friends in the nerdiest of places. I really hope you'll get there so we can meet in person and you can keep enriching this life that Steve and I have built around the NosillaCast. Whether you've been here a day, a month, a year, or more than a decade, I want to thank you for listening and staying subscribed. Yay! Poor Chuck.
Good job. Congratulations on 14 years.
Thank you.
Well done.
My pleasure, literally.
If Frank were here, he would say you're blossoming or blooming.
Little bright?
Yeah, a little bright. I guess Blossom
Yeah,
has other
this
meaning.
battery on the on this camera. How about that? You like that better?
Yes.
All right. Still kind of flat looking,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Sandy says that must be a record among podcasts. It certainly is one of the longest, but it's not definitely not the longest. It's Adam Curry, right?
Adam Christensen, but of still running podcasts,
still running.
Adam Christensen is longer than me, and I don't know much outside of the tech community whether there's other ones, but I'm longer than the
Twit.
Mac Break Weekly, and Leo mentions that whenever I'm on, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I got one more quick line here. Hang on just a second. Muting Steve. Well, I took a week off from Chit Chat Across the Pond to go down to San Diego and see Lindsay for Mother's Day. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled program next week. All right. And now I'm going to do a chapter.
Wait, what was that in a reference to? That was being back next week?
No Chit Chat.
Oh,
I didn't do a Chit Chat this week. Next week's going to be a nightmare. Oh, I need you to look up when Nick's party is because I need to schedule Bart around that.
Okay. You need that now or later?
No, whenever you get a chance. Nope. There. Oh, come on, really? Copy link. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so next weekend we are going to be actually, where are we doing the live show, Steve? Or am I doing it on a Monday?
I thought we agreed.
What are we doing?
Monday.
Well, I should probably mention that if that's what we're doing. Let's take a look at the calendar.
This would be the show to mention that.
This would be the show to mention that.
So we get back Monday.
Yeah.
And
so I think
his
what
party
day
is Sunday.
Is it?
So, yeah,
so we're going to Steve's nephew's graduation party. Can you double check what day the graduation party is? Because right now would be the time to mention it.
Hold on.
So I'll entertain you guys for a little bit. Steve is leaving to run down and get the invitation. Yeah, but it's very likely to be Monday instead of Sunday. Sunday. Yeah, we don't. Yeah. I think Sunday is going to work better. Let me start writing up a note about this for the show notes while we're on the subject. Go here. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, the party itself is Sunday at 1 p.m., so there's no way we're going to be doing NosillaCast live at the regularly scheduled time anyway.
All right. Nick, can you entertain the audience for a second while I write? Sing them a song. Bring Tesla in. They always like to talk to Tesla.
Tesla seems to be sleeping one off. She had a rough weekend with Dodger. Dodger is her play buddy.
Go get her. Wake her up.
She's right here. She's just zonked out. You want to get up, Tess? Hey, Tess. Come here. Tessa, say hi to everyone. Go ahead. Be at your best. You're on camera. Oh, no, I think she's had enough. Yeah, I think she was not impressed.
All right.
Monday, May 20. What?
What? Monday, May 20th. Yes.
Yeah, that's when the show would be, or it will be rescheduled.
All right, so everybody make a note. All right. Let me stick that in. Glad I thought to ask that right then. Muting Steve. Speaking of slacking off, right here after talking about how long of a great run we've had of the NosillaCast, next Sunday we will be in Fresno attending a graduation party. So the live show will not be on Sunday night. We're going to push it out until Monday, May 20th. It'll still be at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and I hope we'll still see at least some of you there. Mark your calendars now. All right, now I need to move my chapter marker.
Good
We
job.
should
remember that.
Okay, watch this. Hey Siri, remind me to send out a note on Sunday telling people that the live show will be on Monday. I wonder what she's going to do.
Today's Sunday, so I'm curious.
Here's your reminder.
It's good. Yeah. I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Your HomePod just made a reminder too. Good. It's in your reminders.
I thought you were going to say,
excellent.
Hey, Shlomo, set my chapter marker. That would be impressive.
That would be good. All right. All right. Here we go.
No, you shouldn't delete
this one. Delete what?
It's in his reminder. In Rick's
Did it really?
Yeah.
Did it really work? No, seriously, Rick and Sandy, did it really?
Oh, come on.
And Kevin?
Oh my God.
I didn't think it worked. I thought it went by your own voice. I could see maybe the HomePod doing it because it's a little more
generalized.
Okay, well, good. You guys send out a notice on Sunday morning. Actually, what time did it pick? I'm curious. But yeah, that would be great if you guys could send out notices too. That would be, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with what just happened. That's perfect. All right, muting Steve, back to work. Every time I produce a video tutorial for Screencasts Online, I tell you that it's amazing. Nothing like tooting your own horn, right? But this time I really mean it. My latest tutorial is on TextExpander, the amazing text expansion tool for the Mac from TextExpander.com. Their latest subscription-based version 6 of the software has many very advanced features from the old standalone version 5. I knew I wasn't using it to its full potential, and the best way I know of to learn a tool is to have to teach it. Now, the problem is that I know the audience is made up of people who've never used TextExpander, many of whom maybe have tried it but couldn't seem to remember the abbreviations for the snippets they've created. And then there's the people who've been using TextExpander for ages and already love it, but maybe there's things they don't yet know that it can do. Because of the very different levels of viewers, I took a different approach to teaching TextExpander. I started very slowly, describing the different elements of the tool interface, and I created the simplest possible snippet, an abbreviation to type out my name. From there, I started ramping it up really quickly to show the more advanced features. For example, did you know that you can nest snippets inside one of another? I demonstrated how I can have a snippet for just my name, but then a signature snippet that includes the name snippet. How about this? Did you know you can embed dates in snippets? Oh, well, all right. If you knew that, how about the fact that you can do date math? Like you can say last month and it'll figure that out. Did you know you can embed shell script, JavaScript, and AppleScript? Anyway, I taught some really cool ways to help you find the snippets you've created without having to remember them and without ever lifting your hands from the keyboard. This tutorial really flowed well, and I think it's one of the best ones I've done. I hope you'll consider going over to Screencasts Online and check out the free 7-day trial of the service, which gives you access to the back catalog and, of course, my tutorial on TextExpander. I put a link to the teaser video on Podfeet so you can see the introduction to get you really excited about it. I love that tutorial, man. I'm really, really happy with it.
And you got some good feedback already on that, as I recall.
Did I?
Yeah,
from the editors at least.
Yeah. Well, they kind of know what they're doing.
Yep. Okay. So this is going to be fun. We're going to drop in some audio. I'm going to play you guys a little bit of this. I asked Bart to come on and explain why is it so cool that Windows is adding Linux, the Linux kernel.
Did you add a chapter mark, by the way?
Not yet, but that's a darn tootin' good idea. Kevin says I should, so I guess I will.
He's on top of things.
Yeah, there's a chapter mark, but there is no audio for this.
That's still worth.
Okay.
There we go.
We're good.
Linux inside Windows. Yeah, so I need to do some editing. You should show my screen.
Okay.
That's much more interesting right now.
Let's go full screen, Allison.
And so I got to take this one. So that's split stereo of Bart. And then this is split stereo of that, or me and then Bart. And good. So this isn't too long. So that's me. And then I think that's me. Let's see if that lines up. And that's probably Bart saying plink. So I will split that and get rid of that one. I think I need to split this one too. Actually, nope, not there. Split it there. And we will split. And I think I'm going to split this one here. You know what's frustrating is I'm very precise about where these chapter marks go. And after they go through Auphonic Leveler, they're in like a totally different place.
Really?
So, yeah, not totally, but like seconds away.
I don't understand why that would be.
Neither do I.
Are tagged to a certain time.
They are.
Down to
and they move. They're not where I put them.
Weird.
All right, let me listen to this. Excited about it. At the risk of needing to video on Podfeet so you can see the introduction to get you really excited about it. At the risk of needing to rebrand the NosillaCast as having an ever so slight Windows bias, I actually want to talk about a really big announcement coming out of Microsoft this week. They announced that Windows 10 will soon ship with a full open source GPL'd Linux kernel. Now, I've read a bit about it, including a really great article by Ars Technica, but I thought it would be way more fun to bring in Bart Bouchatz to help us understand why this is so cool. Now, I want to warn you guys, I asked him to do this on the fly, so don't expect any show notes about this. This is going to be off the top of our heads. So that person snickering in the background, that would be you, Bart?
That would indeed be me. And I think you said, do you want to record? And I said, on the condition I can do no prep and have no notes. Yeah. So here I am.
Exactly. So from the baseline of what I can understand, Microsoft. Okay, let me hear how that.
No notes. Yeah. So here I am.
Exactly. Means?
Oh, well, let's backtrack a little.
Okie dokie. Is that right, Ellen?
You could run on alpha.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I remember running Windows on alphas.
That's me.
And then they sort of got all of
lecturing there. Let's see if I'm trying to see whether I really got lined up.
Period where it was everything right. So that was a complete fix.
I'm thinking he could slide just a smidge to the left. Oh, no.
Software too.
Right.
Because you're never going to be
on the internet.
Pretty much.
I feel like I could just a smidge, just about that much. That run the internet?
Pretty much.
Okay. Go find some others. I don't get to talk very much when I talk to Bart, so it's hard to find spots where it lines up.
No, seriously, we've changed.
I like that waveform.
And so now when
my laugh.
Yeah, look at that. It's
a spike right there. Let's see. That's great. That is pretty precise, isn't it? All right. I think that's pretty good. Let me check. Go to the end. I think we're pretty good. Wait.
So it's good to share.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week.
Indeed. Until then, happy computing.
Oh.
Wow. Look at that.
Motorcycle
so steep. Yep. Oh, yeah. That could be just about anything. You got me something to fix that.
I did. And by Tuesday or Wednesday, we should be able to hang it.
He got me a giant blanket to hang on my window to kill the road noise. Next week.
Sound
Indeed.
Absorption blanket.
Well, we'll talk to you next week.
Indeed. Until then, happy computing.
He is peeking on this again.
Yeah, yes, he is.
We had all kinds of problems. He had to switch over to his MacBook because I could barely understand him. Something really strange was going on. I think it was an
Irish accent.
No, I think it was an interference problem with. I think he was having an I/O problem, but he didn't want to reboot his Mac because he had a whole bunch of stuff running and couldn't do it. So There you go. All right. I'm going to keep recording here. All right.
Indeed. Until then, happy computing.
In 2017, on the show, I mentioned a listener who went by the handle Scamar, and for some reason on the show, I asked what that person's real name was. Well, as a result, I got a lovely email from Aristides. Let's see, the last name is Skamagakis. Skamagakis. There we go. Anyway, from Aristides Skamagakis. No, I'm going to redo that. Aristides Kamagakis. That's a tough one. Aristides Kamagakis. Skamagakis. Let's see if I can do this.
Until then, happy computing.
In 2017, on the show, for some reason, I mentioned a listener who went by the handle Scamar, and for some reason, I asked what that person's real name was. I got a lovely email as a result from Aristides Skamagakis from Greece telling me that he'd been listening since 2010. Now, remember my list earlier of all the ways you can interact with me and how much they all mean to me? Well, this lovely letter where Aris said, you fill every Monday morning with your wonderful podcast, that those words just absolutely made my day. Then in 2018, he sent in a dumb question. And in 2019, he sent in a correction when I said something dumb. Now, this week, Aris has become a Patreon member. The only thing he's missing in his list is attending the live show. But in his very first message, he explained the difficulties of watching a show at 3 a.m. his time. In any case, I want to say thank you so much, Aris, for your wonderful contributions over the years and making a pledge to support the show financially at podfeet.com/Patreon. You rock.
So I'm not sure this was intentional or not, but you spelled wonderful with a U?
I should fix that. That was one of his typos.
Oh, you could
wrote
put
it. That
sick
was
in there. Nah,
but he actually had a couple other ones. Well, there's a bunch of typos I made earlier, and you didn't fix them for me. Well, actually, I should do.
I didn't review that one. I don't review your main.
Well, why did you?
I just saw. I was just reading it now, for the first time.
Oh, okay.
No, I thought maybe you were thinking of Wunderlist.
There's something I had a bunch of typos earlier. Well, maybe Sandy will read them for me.
I don't know why in the heck guy goes by Scamar. I mean, he's got such a easy to pronounce name.
Well, actually, his last name is Skamagakis. So Scamar.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, maybe Skam is his last name and AR is his first name.
Yeah, the old last name, first name.
Partial. Yeah. I still thought it was very cool.
You want to do a chapter mark on that one?
I do. On what's coming up though. So wise sense. This is kind of fun. Oh, do I have the wise sense up here?
No, it's my installed, isn't it?
No, but I've got some. I can show the live audience. I've got the ones that we haven't done yet.
Do you want me to go grab it?
No, I've got it right here. Thanks. All right. Copy. Copy link. Maybe it still would be easier. Okay. Let me grab it. Oh. And of course, it was the last thing I pulled out. All typos are Kevin's fault. Good. That was handy. All right. So let's see. I got to bring up that article now. No. There we go. All right. See this teeny little box?
Let me go full screen.
Is that blown out? That is blown out. Why is it so bright? Well, I'll take the parts out while we're chatting.
Hey, look at that nice apple pillow behind you.
I know, isn't it beautiful?
That's beautiful. I don't wonder who made that. Blushes.
Yeah. Whoops. Oh, I got to turn off notifications because every time I do this, my watch is sending me a notification.
You are going to tell
Stop
me.
it. Yes. On for 1 hour.
Oh, and your pot
I
feet
should-
pin is in distress. It's not showing. Not
Is it?
visible.
It's
Thank
not
you.
upside down. It's not that
Well,
big of a crisis yet. All right. Here we go. Did I do a chapter? Yes, I did a chapter. Here we go. Muting Steve. If you've been listening to or reading my content for the last few years, you know I'm crazy about the WiseCam security cameras. They first came to my attention when Joe LaGreca told me about them when we hung out at CES a few years ago. The original WiseCam is a tiny cube of a camera. It's like 2 inches on a side and only costs $25 after shipping. The 1080p video is incredibly good. They stand on an articulated base so you can point them where you want, and they have 15 days of free cloud storage, or you can use a micro SD card with them. Then Wise came out with the WiseCam Pan. This camera is a taller rectangle but can pan around on a schedule or on demand from their app. Costs a bit more, but it's still stupid inexpensive at $37 with free shipping on Amazon. I wrote an article about my addiction to Wise cameras when that one came out. Now I have 3 original Wise cams and 1 Wise Cam Pan. In early April, Wise announced that they're getting into the sensor business. When we got the Ring alarm system for our house, Steve really wanted a sensor to tell him if we'd remembered to close the garage door. But putting one of the Ring sensors on the garage door created this weird no person's land inside the garage where there was an alarm sensor on both doors, so on either side of you. The sensors announced by Wise, called Wise Sense, would have several advantages. I knew they'd be inexpensive and yet of good build quality with great software. In the marketing for Sense, they demonstrated how tiny they would be by showing you could put a Sense on a dog food container so you'd know when someone fed the dog or at least teased the poor thing with an open container. I jumped on the opportunity to order a Wise Sense starter pack on day one, not realizing that I had joined what they called the early access group. Evidently, they only had a small number of pre orders available, and I got into the first batch. That will become important later in the story. For a grand total of $20 with the starter pack, you get 2 Wise sensors, a motion detector, and a wireless bridge, all in this teeny tiny box. It's like twice the thickness of an AirPods case and about the same dimensions around, maybe a little bit bigger. For comparison's sake, the sensors we got for our doors and windows from Ring are $20 a piece. So this is $20 for 2 Wise sensors, a motion detector, and a wireless bridge. The entire sensor starter pack or Wise Sense starter pack fits in the palm of my hand. Now, sensors like these don't have Wi-Fi built into them for many reasons. They'd be bigger, more expensive, and they wouldn't get good battery life. Instead, the manufacturers sell you a wireless bridge. The sensors talk to the bridge, and then the bridge talks to your router, which then gives you access at and away from home. The design of the Wise Bridge is positively genius. On every Wise Cam, there has always been a USB port, but they never provided an explanation for why it's there. The Wise Bridge that comes with the starter pack plugs into any Wise Cam via USB. It actually sort of completes the back of the camera so that all you see is a small cloth tether to pull it back out. If you've got multiple Wise Cams as I do, you can move the bridge between cameras until you get the optimal wireless coverage for your home. Once the bridge is installed, you can start initializing the sensors, much the way you would their cameras. In the Wise app, you select Add New Device, choose whether it's one of the camera models, a sensor, or a motion sensor, and give it a name, and you're done. Now, on the home screen of the app, you can see all of your cameras, sensors, and motion detectors. We put one of the Wise sensors on our garage door. When we did this with the Ring sensor, the top of creating the that didn't make any sense. The top, now on the home screen of the app. There we go. Might save. Ooh, you got the LG 27 too.
Hey, by the way,
We put one of the Wise sensors. Yes.
Ian Lessing joined our chat room here. He said,
Oh, hi, Ian.
Do you know him?
Yes.
Okay, he's got 2 Wise cams thanks to you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Now you need
Sec-
Wise Sense.
Second time to the chat room, apparently. So tell them what you're doing. Have you described
A
what you're
pair
doing
of
yet?
Ians. Yeah, so this is the sensor. This is the Wise Sense. I mean, this thing is teeny. Look at it. Compare it. Let's see. I got an AirPods case around. I don't know. Compare it to my eyeball. It's that big. And I'm pulling it apart and putting it back together. And then this is the motion detector, which again, little teeny tiny itty bitty thing. And then let's see. This is
Ian's got it too, he says.
Oh, he does. Oh, good. Let's see. That's what it looks. The wireless bridge looks like plugged into the back of the Wisecam.
It was so interesting that they designed these things from the outset. I don't know how many years ago, with that notched out area, just so the sense would someday fit in, or the the bridge.
You know, that camera is a commodity camera. They buy that from China, and a lot of different companies buy the same camera. So it must just have been a USB access, and they made a sensor that fit to it. Yeah.
Wow, that's
we put one of the
Wise.
Yeah, I am color me impressed with these guys.
Yeah.
All right, back to recording. We put one of these Wise Sense sensors on our garage door. Remember when we did this with the Ring sensor, on top of creating the no man's or no person's land in our alarm system, the sensor was actually so large it was very hard to place properly so that it would stay on the door and not get knocked off when the garage door opened. It wasn't trivial to place the diminutive Wise Sense either, but by rotating one side, Steve was able to get it in place, and it's been working properly ever since. With our notifications turned on for all of our Wise sensors, we now get several new alerts. We're notified when the garage door opens, when it closes, and probably most importantly, we get a notification if the door has been left open for 30 minutes. You can also tell at a glance if a sensor is certainly open right within the app. In the Wise app, you can choose which of these notifications to get and how long a sensor is open before you want a notification. I really like the granularity of all those options. In the ad for WiseSense, as I mentioned, they show putting a sensor on something as small as a pet food container. Think about it. If you've got somebody supposedly feeding your pets while you're away, you could get a notification when that container was open and closed. Now, maybe that isn't a use case you have, but I bring it up again to illustrate that these sensors can be used for much more than doors and windows. Now, I'm not saying anything against the Ring sensors. They are doing a completely different function. You know, they're going to set off an alarm, but these WiseSense sensors are so small, you can put them all kinds of places. Maybe a liquor cabinet could be monitored when your teenagers are home alone for a weekend. I mean, not that your kids would do something wrong, of course. Well, I'm a big fan of setting up automation sequences in HomeKit, but I got to tell you, every time I set up a new automation, it takes me hours to get back into the hang of how they work and how you make them go and the different terminology. With the Wise software, it could not have been easier to set up automations. So Wise has shortcuts, actions, and automations. Let me do a couple of simple examples to illustrate how easy these are to create. Let's say when you close your bedroom door, you want to activate the two downstairs cameras, but not the upstairs camera, and you want to get a notification from the app. You create a shortcut and call it, say, nighttime. Once a shortcut is created, you add actions to it. Under universal actions, you can turn on app notifications. Then under device actions, you can drill down into each camera and tell the app what the action wants it to take place. In our example, we can turn on two cameras and turn off the third. Now you could just stop here and tap the nighttime shortcut button you now have on the home screen, but let's get fancier. You could toggle on automation within that shortcut and then choose one of the two options. You can have the shortcut triggered by a time of day or by an event. An event can be the closing of a sensor you put on the bedroom door. I was able to create a fully functioning automation similar to this scenario without reading any instructions because the screens are so very easy and very clear and easy to follow. You can also trigger events when something more serious occurs. All Wise cams automatically detect the sounds of smoke and carbon monoxide detectors in your home, made by other manufacturers. Evidently, these sounds are standardized across devices. So you could have cameras and notifications turn on when any of the cameras detect those emergency sounds. You can also have this happen when they detect any sound or motion. I created a test shortcut using one of the sensors I got in the starter pack. I simply had all of the cameras turn off whenever the sensor was opened and turn on again when it was closed. Now, I have found that the app wasn't 100% consistent in changing the icon next to each camera to show that it was off or on. Some would toggle to off, but some would not. Again, that's the graphic. But if I tapped into each camera, I could verify that they definitely did turn off when that action took place. So these sensors are really new, and the people at Wise, this team there, is really responsive about sending out updates. So I'm sure they'll get the graphics stabilized soon. The important thing again is that the devices really do obey the automation rules, even if the screen doesn't always update immediately. One thing that's been in the back of my mind is I've enjoyed the fabulous software and incredibly low prices of the Wise hardware, is whether these devices are actually secure. Bart tuned us into the fact that recently on Security Now with Steve Gibson and Leo Laporte, Steve gave his approval of the Wise security model. The context of the discussion was that Steve and Leo were talking about the fact that some vendors use cheap and low power as an excuse to take security shortcuts in their design. Scooter X from the chat room asked them to comment on Waze. Leo and Steve then talked about how even though Wise cameras are cheap and they do have low power, they do security correctly. Leo pointed out that Wise uses TLS AES 128-bit encryption to protect the security of the live stream and playback data, and that every device has its own secret key and cert so they can validate the security during a handshake. Steve Gibson's response to hearing this read out was, "Wow, that's what you want." He went on to say, "Rip those D-Link suckers out by the roots. Yes, yes, yes." Well, I particularly like Steve's last line because that's exactly what I did when I learned about the Wise cams from Joe LaGreca. I threw away my $100 D-Link camera and I replaced it with the $20 Wise cam. If you'd like to hear Steve and Leo's conversation for yourself, Bart gave us a link to the Security Now episode starting at the exact section where they talked about this, and it's in the show notes. Remember I told you that I got in on the pre-orders for the Wise Sense starter pack? Well, this week they sent out an email to the early access group inviting us to attend a virtual happy hour with the Wise team. One of the big advantages of being retired is you can say yes to goofy ideas like this. Mike, the product manager for WiseSense, held the event on YouTube, and it was really fun. He dragged his laptop all around the company offices and he introduced us to people. It was super dorky because it was just people working and this guy making us wave at them, wave at us on the camera. Throughout the tour, he would answer questions we were typing in, which was great. At one point, I demanded to see Max, the guy I interviewed at CES about some of their products. So Mike actually broke into a meeting just so Max had to wave at us. I love that. Besides being good old goofy fun, we got a lot of early access information. This is not private information now, but it was news when they told us on Monday. Here's the juicy information that got me excited. The WiseSense starter kit I talked about went on sale again on the 8th of May, and if you want in, you should probably order sooner rather than later. They explained that the first shipments that are just on sale right now, hopefully it's still available when you're listening to this, those came by air, but the next batch will be delivered by ship, so they're going to be delayed for several weeks. So get in on it now. Let's see. Soon they're going to begin starting selling to sell a 4-pack of sensors for just $20. Now remember, you do need the starter kit first because you need to get the bridge. They're going to be selling the motion sensors individually for only $6. This is, I mean, that's just crazy. Someone in the audience asked about the protocol for communication between the sensors back to the bridge, and Mike told us that it was sub 1G, which I took to mean below 1 gigahertz, and he said that it's a proprietary protocol. They didn't do like Z-Wave or any of those. Someone asked about battery life on the sensors, and he said it would be, around 12 months in normal use. And then he said, well, if you do something crazy like putting on your garage door that's like opening and closing all the time, that life might be shorter. Yeah, well, anyway, at $5 a piece in the 4-pack, I assume that battery pack isn't replaceable. So we'll probably have to buy extra sensors after those die. The coolest thing they told us is they're going to be doing a Wise smart bulb that will work with Google Alexa and IFTTT. Mike even demonstrated it. He said it would be 800 lumens, which is the rough equivalent of a 60-watt incandescent bulb. Now, it's not going to do any super fancy stuff, but you can control on, off, and dim along with the color temperature. Like, not a lot of crazy colors, but just a color shift from the blue daylight end towards a soothing amber evening light. They didn't talk about pricing, but Will, the sales guy, said the bulb should be out in time for Father's Day. He said, and I quote, "Fathers like toys." Well, I couldn't let that go. I piped up in the chat room saying, "Hey, mothers like toys too. Even grandmothers like toys." He laughed and said, "Of course they do." We asked about HomeKit, and Mike didn't think the market was big enough for that, but I made a bunch of noise. I just kept yelling HomeKit over and over again, and I think he thought a lot of people said it, and he said, "Oh, wow, it looks like people do care about HomeKit." Well, I did what I could. We'll see. When asked if they're doing a doorbell, they simply said yes. That will be interesting to see what the price is on that. Many people want to see an outdoor Wise Cam. Mike's boss was with him when this question was asked, and his answer was interesting. He said, we could slap the existing one in an enclosure, and that would be easy, but we have a much bigger vision for the outdoors, and we're working on a quite different camera. That's intriguing. If you look out on Amazon, a lot of people sell little cases for them anyway. Some of them look like little birdhouses. They're adorable. They got little roofs over them. I kind of want one. Finally, Mike went to a guy's workstation who was working on getting Wise Cams to stream to the video version of Google Home. Thinking he wouldn't get an answer, Mike said, "Hey, when's that going to be available? When's the software going to be done?" And the guy said, "In a couple of days." Mike assumed he was kidding, but the guy reiterated that he has it almost working. So that's really cool. It might be working by now. I wish I had a Google Home video to test it out. You can watch the happy hour video yourself of everything I talked about at the link in the show notes. Let's bottom line this one. The whole experience of watching this group of people working and willing to be so very open and transparent about their product development, letting us peek behind the curtain like that made me like Wise even more. They've got solid hardware, incredibly affordable prices, a good security model, intuitive product development, and the team is open and accessible. Seriously, what more could you want? Check out all of their products at wise.com. Now, you can't get the Wise Sense on Amazon yet, but I do have an affiliate link to Amazon for the Wise Cam and the Wise Cam Pan if you want to go use that. There we go.
So Hay joined us.
Hey!
Yeah, Hay's here, and I think TJ is here. I mean, it's got the headphone avatar.
We have not seen TJ in forever.
I think he's calling himself Apostrophe tonight with just the symbol. He just wanted to go short tonight.
That's funny. I saw a typo in there. I think it was doesn't. Let's see. T apostrophe. No. Doesn't. It was a contraction where it was there twice. Oh, well. No big deal. All right, what's next? 38 minutes. Wow. I have one more story to tell. Yeah, this one's fun.
Do you need your little prop?
I have it.
Okay.
All right. One moment. Copy link. All right, we have our chapter mark. Now to bring it up here. All right. I think you should show. Do you want to drop the photo in? I'm sure.
Yeah.
What's your present in all this, or your midlife crisis? Yeah, he's the same age as me. He should get to have one too. All right, here goes.
Let me go full screen on you.
Actually, hang on. Dang damn it. I shouldn't have put the cover back on it. It's really hard to get out. Just a second. There we go. There we go. I got a new toy.
You did get a Tesla. Look at that.
I got a Tesla. A 1/43rd scale Tesla. Tesla Model 3. Isn't it
now
cute?
We got two of them in the house. It's going to be hard to keep track.
And hence the title of this article is Tale of Two Teslas.
There you go.
Actually, I need to fix this, right?
What's wrong with it?
The wrong name. What was Higgs' first name, Steve?
Professor. Do you need a first name? I'll go look him up.
Yes, I do.
I think his last name is Boson. No.
No, it is not.
Peter.
Okay, I can say Higgs.
Peter
What is it?
Higgs. Peter Higgs. He was there at the announcement of the Higgs boson discovery. That was
Yeah, actually,
pretty
I think I'm
emotional.
not going to put his name in.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. All right, muting Steve. 6 years ago, Steve and I adopted a lovely young dog and named her Tesla after the inventor Nikolai Tesla, best known for his contributions to the design of the modern alternating current AC electrical supply system. Now, before we met our dog Tesla, our plan was to name our future dog Higgs after the physicist who predicted the Higgs boson particle. But when we met our new dog, she rolled over on her back to ask us to rub her belly and revealed that she had a Tesla logo on her chest. Well, we really had no choice what to name her, right? Ever since then, people have been confused when I mentioned Tesla, thinking that I have a Tesla car. Well, that just wasn't in the cards because in 1978, I got my first Honda, and in the ensuing 41 years, Steve and I have never owned a car that was not made by Honda Motor Company. They were great cars, super reliable, but more importantly, our mechanic was Honda Bob. He cared for our cars for so long that we simply could not envision the nightmare of finding a reliable, trustworthy, and fair mechanic for a different type of car. And Bob was unbending. It was only Hondas and Acuras. But Honda Bob passed away recently. And you know what his dying wish was? It was to get a ride in a Tesla. Even though our friend Ron gladly agreed to grant his last wish, sadly, he died before he got his ride. Well, this might sound silly, but I feel like I have Bob's blessing on what I did this week. I bought a Tesla Model 3. In case you're not familiar with the line of all electric vehicles from Tesla, this is their smaller four-door sedan. Now, I had no real excuse to buy a new car. Even though my car is 7 years old, my 2012 Acura TL only has 25,000 miles on it. I am literally that little old lady that only drives to the corner gym and back with my car. It's a gorgeous car, it's in perfect shape, but I wanted a Tesla Model 3. I ordered one weeks ago and it finally came in this week. The Tesla Model 3 comes in a few different options, costing successively more money. Unlike the old days where electric vehicles could only go 40 miles on a charge, the standard range Model 3 can go 240 miles, which is darn respectable. The long range model has a range of 310 miles, which, I mean, that's as long as any internal combustion engine I've ever owned. By the way, people often use the acronym ICE for internal combustion engine. Well, we've talked about the standard range and the long range models, but there's also one more version called the performance model. You don't get any more range with the performance, rather, it's more about acceleration. The long range model's acceleration is a fantastic 0 to 60 miles in 4.4 seconds. But the performance model is an eyeball smashed into the back of your head acceleration of 3.2 seconds for 0 to 60 miles per hour. Keeping to the old adage of, go big or go home, I went all in and purchased the Tesla Model 3 Performance in gorgeous red. This does now prove that I will live to the ripe old age of 122 because I've left no doubt that this is a midlife crisis car. I really did have a good excuse to get the red. Where we live, there are so many black Model 3s. I would have normally gotten black, but they're everywhere. They're all black. Every once in a while, you'll see a blue or a gray one, but I have not ever seen a red one. So I had to do it. Now, I haven't had very much time with the car yet, but as I get to learn the high tech side of it, I will definitely share what I learn. I can give you a little taste of a few things from just a short time with the car. I'm going to try really hard not to bore you with a long explanation of everything it can do, but I'm planning on sprinkling out little Tesla tidbits from time to time as I learn about the tech in the car. Note that as I talk about the safety features and auto driving modes for the car, every feature is not available on the lower models. It's part of what you're paying for as you go from standard to long range to performance models. I'm not going to break down which car has which features. All of the features I'm talking about are on the performance, but some of them may be available on the other models. Besides being an all-electric car for helping with saving the planet, and except for the fun of driving a rocket ship in terms of acceleration, the thing I was really looking forward to was having the car automatically slow down, stop, and accelerate for me in stop and go traffic. Living in LA, that's just a way of life. Let me give you an example. We live 4 miles from our gym, and it usually takes us between 20 and 25 minutes to get there. But it's even worse. One summer, every road was under construction, and took us as long as 40 minutes to go those 4 miles. Now, the irony is not lost on me that I sat in traffic for 40 minutes to drive the distance that I actually run when I exercise. I had to read the manual to find out what this automatic stop and accelerate mode is called in the Tesla. This feature is named traffic aware cruise control. I'm going to probably call it the not hitting stuff and not noticing the light turn green mode, and it drives for you. Anyway, here's how it works. There isn't a standard gear shift down on the console. Instead, it's on what car nerds refer to as a stalk on the steering column. Back in the 60s, cars had gear shifts like this on the stalk. But the stock for the Tesla has a lot of different gestures for how you control the car. I think of this as being like a magic trackpad with, 3-finger drag, 4 fingers swipe up, 5 finger swipe out, all those different gestures. That's what the stock on the steering column is like. So normal gear shifts have park at the top, then reverse, then neutral, then drive. With the Tesla stock, you actually flip it up to get into reverse. To go into park, you tap a button inward on the end of the stock. Now is where it gets very magic trackpad-y. Tap down lightly and the car goes into neutral. Tap down like you mean it and you get drive. Isn't that weird? But there's even more about this tapping down on the stock. Let's say you're tooling along and drive in slow traffic. Another single tap down on the stock will switch the car into traffic aware cruise control. That's the not hitting things mode. I got to tell you, that mode is really spectacular, I have to say. On the giant 17-inch touchscreen, you tell it how many seconds you want between you and the car ahead of you, with the default being 3 seconds. From the moment you do the double tap, the car will slow down and stop with the cars in front of you, and it will accelerate as soon as they go. And if you live in an area where there is ever an instance where there's no car in front of you, it will stop accelerating when you reach the posted speed limit. I got to tell you, this mode, it's positively magical. It doesn't in any way relieve you from the need to steer and pay attention. It just takes out that dreadful tedium of brake and accelerate 3,248 times in 3 miles on the 405 southbound freeway at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday. Anyway, that's what it's like. I'm not kidding you. But the Tesla people are quite specific on the screen explaining traffic aware cruise control, that it is completely unaware of traffic lights. So if you're coming up on a light and there's no car in front of you, that car will just breeze right through if you don't take control. I do have to keep emphasizing, though, in this mode, you are very aware that you're still the one driving, and it's just helping out with a boring task for you along the way. Traffic Aware Cruise Control, TACC, is listed as a beta feature, and the screen explaining it was interesting. It says that if this was a feature of a smartphone, they would never call it a beta feature, but with an automobile, they figure a bit more caution might be required. Sounds kind of like the people who make laws about cars and driving made them call it beta to me. And I support those people 100%. Now, if you thought I was done with the tapping down gestures on the stock, you'd be wrong. There's also a driving mode called auto steer, and I'm pretty sure that is one of the things only on the higher end models. But you get into that mode by double tapping down if you're in normal drive, or single tapping down if you're already in traffic aware cruise control. When the car begins self steering, it's a little bit unsettling to say the least. If you try to lightly steer yourself, the wheel actually resists you. But if you firmly take control, it will yield to your demands. So you do get to drive if you want to, but it kind of goes, no, I got this if you first start to try to turn the wheel. But the really crazy thing that you can do with auto steer is if you turn on your turn signal, the car will look around at all of the sensors, cameras, radar sensor, and ultrasonic sensors for situational awareness. It will use that data to see if there's already a car in the lane you've requested to move into, and only move into the new lane when it can safely do so. But it does it by itself. You turn on the turn signal and you wait, and it changes lanes for you. I tested it out on day one. I figured I better, face that challenge, that fear first day. And it worked, but it did scare the daylights out of me. You see, there was a car coming up on my left, and it judged the acceleration of that car and it punched it to zoom ahead of the other car. I'm not saying I wouldn't have done the same thing. And in LA traffic, you do have to take all opportunities, but it was still crazy to think of the amount of math that went into that maneuver. I mentioned the 17-inch touchscreen, which is the centerpiece of the car. It's the centerpiece because it's gorgeous, but also because there aren't many controls that aren't on the screen. The dash is completely sleek and uninterrupted other than that screen. There aren't even air vents that are visible or that you can move around with your hands. Instead, on screen, you see a little fan symbol, and when you tap that, you get a visual representation of how the air is flowing out of that long slit across the entire dash. For the driver and passenger separately, you can use your fingers to pinch in and out to narrow and widen the air and rotate it up and down. For an iPad user, it's pretty natural. But it's still pretty crazy to think that's how you're controlling the car. The only physical controls on the car are two little scrolly dials on the steering wheel. The left one moves the mirror and changes the position of the steering wheel, but only after you've used the touchscreen to get into those modes. That same dial controls your audio playback, raising and lowering volume with the roller, stopping and playing with a click, and then a click left or right to go forward and back in a podcast. They tell me it also skips track on music, but I wouldn't know about that. I told you there's two scrolly wheels. I don't know what the second one is for yet, but I'm going to learn. There is one thing that's now very problematic in our house, and it's the confusion of having two Teslas in the house. Several times in the last few weeks, as we worked on the purchase of the new car, Steve and I became confused about what the other person was talking about. We were taking Tesla to the vet, figuring out which wheels we wanted for the Tesla, and planning on who would take care of Tesla when we go to Steve's parents' house when we drive the Tesla to see them. See what I mean? It gets a little hard. Steve drove my car to go pick up the new car, and then I drove behind him on the way home. Traffic was pretty awful, and it was a long drive, so I had a lot of time to experience with how the car drove in stop and go traffic. Before we left the Tesla dealer, we paired both of our phones to the car. I have to say, it was glorious how easy it was to do. I love Hondas and Acuras, but pairing a phone to their cars is a nightmare. I usually spend over an hour trying to do it, and then finally Steve steps in and he spends another half hour until he beats it into submission. On Teslas, it's a matter of 2 or 3 taps on the touchscreen with super obvious instructions, and you're done. I tried the navigation built into the car, and while it worked pretty well, there was one thing I didn't like. On any Bluetooth capable car, if you use any navigation software on your phone while playing music or a podcast from that same device, the phone will automatically duck down the audio from the music or the podcast when the navigation needs to tell you about an upcoming turn. Makes complete sense. But the Tesla's built-in nav system just is oblivious to the fact that it's competing with Bluetooth audio coming from a phone, and it keeps both volumes the same. Tesla doesn't support CarPlay, so you can't have any other nav system but theirs on that gorgeous display. The other alternative is to use the built-in access to TuneIn Radio, which includes podcasts, and that's through that big screen. That could work well for a long drive where you're sure you'll finish a show before you get home, but if you're on shorter drives listening to longer podcasts, you'd have to hunt down where you stop the show and set it to that on your phone, or do all of your podcast listening via TuneIn. But what if you want your podcast player? I gave up on this as I drove home, and I just used Bluetooth to listen on my phone, and it did navigation via Waze on my phone. So here I am, tootling along. I hit the turn signal, and my podcast stopped. Well, that's kind of weird. I clicked the scroll wheel on the steering wheel, and after a little while, it started back up. But a little while later, I had my hand near the turn signal, and again, the audio stopped. Then Steve, who was driving directly in front of me, called me from the Acura. He was driving in front of me, and we had a heck of a time talking to each other. I'd hear a few words, and then he wouldn't hear me. We tried several times with me calling him and him calling me, and it was super dodgy. I was really bummed that the audio was all messed up, but the Bluetooth was totally messed up on this car. Then I figured it out. My phone was still paired to my Acura, so the phone was simply jumping over to the car Steve was driving. Steve figured out on his end around the same time I did when he heard my voice coming in from inside his car, the car that he was driving. Anyway, we both had a good laugh about it, and I was really happy to know it wasn't something broken in my brand new baby. I want to give a big shout out to Rod Simmons of the SMR podcast. He bought a Model X for himself and later surprised his wife with a Model 3. He talks about electric vehicles a lot on their podcast, and Teslas in particular. I told him I was getting tempted to just test drive a Model 3, and he cautioned me. He said, "Do not do it." He said, "If you drive it, you're going to buy it." Now, I didn't want other people to influence my decision on this car, so Steve and I didn't tell anyone we were considering the purchase except for Rod. We threw tons of questions at him, and he was a font of information. He taught us how to find charging stations that are specifically for Teslas, called superchargers, but more importantly, showed us all of the other types of chargers available on the road these days and how to optimize your trips to hit them at convenient times in easy locations. He taught us about accessories to buy because clearly the cost of that car was not enough. He helped us to understand the different options. He helped clarify things that my awful salesperson had incorrectly explained. Seriously, man, he was categorically not my little friend. Anyway, Rod never pushed me to do it, but rather gave me the information I needed to make an informed decision. One of the things he told me up front was to expect some glitches. He wasn't specific about it, but he said to expect some odd things that will make you say, well, that shouldn't happen. They wouldn't be safety issues, but annoying little glitches. I think I know what he means now. When we went to the gym with the new car, we got to show it to our good friend Dorothy, the one you hear me talking about on Programming by Stealth all the time. I took her for a quick spin around the block, and on that quick trip, she tried to play with the touchscreen, but it didn't respond to her. I wasn't sure what was going on because I was driving and I couldn't play with it at the time, of course. But I did notice that when she was trying to tap on it, my turn signal didn't make any noise. Then suddenly, the screen went black and rebooted. Now, to be clear, the actual driving of the car was not impacted. The steering wheel worked, the accelerator worked, and more importantly, the brakes worked. But I have to say, having every other thing in the car just simply disappear at once was quite disconcerting. I remember my father had a saying, "Everyone goes when the whistle blows." He also said in reference to electric windows replacing wind-up windows, "Just one more thing to go wrong." I could just hear him in my head, and he'd have been right. I'm not ready for a bottom line yet on the car, other than I'm so giddy and excited. And but like I said, I'll be giving you little fun tech stories about how Teslas work over time. Sadly, I can't give you an Amazon affiliate link to the car, but I do have an affiliate link to Tesla. It doesn't give you a discount on a new car, and I don't get a percentage of what you spend, but it does give you 1,000 free miles of supercharging and gives me the same if you use it to buy your car. I felt terrible that I didn't remember to use rods when I bought my car. But then I did some math on what that 1,000 miles is worth. Turns out 1,000 miles on a supercharger is about $68. I told Rod, I'll buy you a $68 dinner next time I see you. Anyway, that cost is pretty crazy, isn't it? Gas around here is around $4 a gallon right now. And if you got as much as 30 miles per gallon, 1,000 miles would cost you 130 miles, or double the cost of charging the Tesla for 1,000 miles. One question I've been asked a lot is whether the rebates from the government are still available, and they are. They're being phased out, though, and it makes sense. You create incentives to help people make the right decisions, but as of August, the Tesla Model 3 has become the 5th best-selling car in America. So it's clear people don't actually need incentives to buy electric cars anymore. Well, I'd love to talk about this more, but I want to go drive my new car now. Whew.
That was a long one.
Yeah, it was. We're 56 minutes, and well, I did cheat, and I had a little bit of Bart in this show.
Yeah.
Stephen's gonna be happy. I get so much crap from him when I have a short show.
Because it doesn't fill his commute.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's his commute or if it's boring day at work or what it is. Save. No chapter mark. We're done. Let me sign off. Done? Well, I got to do the sign off. It's 6:08. I kept people after class.
It is.
Hold, please.
Late.
Well, if I'm going to go play with my car, I better wind us up for this week. Do not forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions like Scamar did by emailing me at Allison. Actually, I'm going to do that with his real name, Aris. Well, if I'm going to go play with my car, I better wind us up for this week. Do not forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions by emailing me at allison@podfeed.com, the way Aris did. You can follow me on Twitter at Podfeet. Remember, anything you want to do starts with podfeet.com. You can become a patron like Aris did this week by going to podfeet.com/Patreon. If you want to join our Facebook or Slack groups, that's podfeet.com/Facebook or podfeet.com/Slack. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, like Ian Lessing did after being gone for a while, and Ian Prince N did after being gone for a while, we had a pair of Ians in here. You can do that by heading over to podfeet.com on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time, but not next week. Next week will be Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And when you do that, you can join the friendly and enthusiastic Nosilla Castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. There we go.
Good job.
'Tis you in the morning. Well, did I miss anything?
You wrapped
137
up,
messages.
14 years, show number 731.
There we go.
Wow.
That's it. I think it's fun.
Good night.
All right.
People are signing off, so enjoy
All right.
your week, everybody.
Definitely. Enjoy your week. All right. Oh, I can do that.
Anytime. Ian, please join us again. Ian Lessing and Ian Princess. Thanks
a pair of
joining us
Ians.
again.
Just go back and read all the messages.
How often do we get two Ians here? That's got to be a first.
I think it has happened before, but I think it's rare.
Tale of two Teslas and a tale of two.
Tale of two Ians. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Rose. Oh, TJ's definitely there. He's in the he's in the hearing channel.
Hasn't been talking a lot. Oh, his iPad died. Oh, that's why he left.
Oh no. All right, let me see if this sting and stay subscribed. There we go. What could be better than two Ians?
Yeah.
Nothing. Oh, I can see what Ian Lessing looks like now. Yeah. That's the first time. In that tiny little avatar, it's like this big. It's probably a way to get it to bring it.
He's also on Twitter. You get a little bigger avatar.
That's fun. I love the Nosilla Castaways, you know?
You're good folks.
All right, guys. We'll see you.
Wrap this up.
I waved. That's in front of the Apple Store in New York. Oh, very cool, Ian. Which one?
We went to 5 there, right?
Yeah, we only went to 4 of the 5, I think.
One of them is the classic store, though, right? Although they closed that. I think they closed it for renovation, but I think it's open.
Yeah, the Cube.
The Cube, Fifth Avenue. That's
Fifth Avenue. Yeah, that's the classic, right? I found some typos.
I caught 2 of them in the.
Wait, did
Tesla.
you change them?
Yeah.
Okay, then I won't.
It didn't have a plural or something, or it had an S when it shouldn't have, and then I found another.
Yeah, it was a mess.
Oh.
Got a GIF there. That's a good one.
That's good.
All right. Well, I'm gonna sign off, Steve. Let's stay on talking. I want to see what I should do about that. All right, bye guys. I'm hanging up.
Bye all.